Hello learners, welcome to the session on the laws concerning the wages, welfare and benefits. I am Dr. L.K. Jana. I am going to take you through a couple of acts or the legislations which is pertaining to the welfare and benefits. One is about the Payment of Bonus Act 1965 and the other one is the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. First of all, why such legislations were a part of the Constitution of India? One of the reasons is the wages and its associated means like bonus or equal remunerations were a major factor in the economic and social life of any community. Our Constitution of India has enshrined the concept of social justice as one of the objectives of the state. That means it is seeking to achieve, among other things, through labor legislations. So let's begin with the Payment of Bonus Act, which has been enacted in 1965. Let's try to visit the origin and development of it. This happens in the 18th session of the Indian Labour Conference, wherein the Government of India in 1961, precisely on December 6th of 1961, Government of India has constituted a commission which was called as a Bonus Commission. The Government of India has accepted the recommendation of the Commission with certain modifications and has promulgated an ordinance on 1965. So it took almost 4 years to Government of India to promulgate this ordinance. The Act has come into force immediately, I think a couple of months after. It was on October of 1965, the Act has come into force. Subsequently, till date, by 2020, you can see that there are a number of amendments that has taken place in this Act, but primarily the Act is consisting of around 4 schedules and 40 sections. Let me take you through the object of the Act. Why this Act is? The Act is basically trying to maintain peace and harmony. 2 words, learners please remember, the peace and harmony between 2 parties, the labor and the capital, by allowing the employees to share in the prosperity of the establishment, which is reflected by the profits that the employer earned, and that need to be actually been given to the employees in the form of bonus. Next comes the applicability, where this Act stands applicable. The Act says it is applied to any factories and establishment which is employing around 20 or more persons on any day in an accounting year. Such an establishment continues to be governed by the Act, notwithstanding in the number of persons employed therein, if it falls below the prescribed 20. When I say that establishments, this also includes the departments, the undertakings and the branches of any establishment that is covered under this Act. Let's talk about some of the definitions. As you know that every labor legislation or every legislation comes with the first part comes with the definition. So over here, what kind of definitions were there? First definition is about the employee. Who is an employee? The employee includes any person who has been employed on a salary or wage which is not exceeding rupees 3,500 per month and being employed in any industry. What kind of jobs they are engaged in? They may be either in the form of skilled, unskilled, manual, supervisory, managerial, administrative, technical or clerical work. The Payment of Bonus Act got amended in 2002, another around 18 years back. This has provided for omission of the ceiling of rupees 3,500 for the applicability of the Act also. And the provisions that has come into force that regulates all the employees in an industry, they'll be entitled to get bonus irrespective of their wages and salaries. The term of employment, because employee when you are referring in the definition, the term of employment over here may be expressed or implied, and there must be a contract between the person employed who is an employee and the employer. That is one. Second definition is the appropriate government. The appropriate government means it is about an establishment in respect of which the appropriate government is governed under the Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. In relation to any other establishment, it is the state government who can regulate the definition of appropriate government. Third comes the employer. The employer over here includes the relationship to an establishment which is in the form of a factory. The owner or occupier of the factory is the employer. The agent who is actually been working on behalf of the owner or occupier can be called as an employer, or the legal representative of a deceased owner or occupier or the manager of the factory is an employer. In relations to any other establishment, it is the person who is the authority who has the ultimate control over anything, over any affairs of the establishment is an employer. The definition of accounting year, because after all the bonus is given to an employee, so obviously we need to know what is an accounting year. For a corporation, the year ending on the day wherein the books and accounts of corporation stands closed and balanced is the accounting year for that. In relation to a company, the period in which the company comes out with a profit and loss statement which is laid after the annual general meeting. Normally in companies you may be finding out the first day of April or the 31st March is the closing day of the accounting year. Then comes the definition of salary or wage. Salary or wage includes the basic pay, the DNS allowance, but not any other allowance. It also excludes the value of any house accommodation or of supply of light, water, medical attendance, amenity, or any kind of services or supplies that is extended. That includes any traveling concession, any contribution that is paid or payable by the employer to any pension fund or provident fund, retrenchment, compensation, gratuity. So these things actually it excludes. Now let's come to the main frame of the Act. The main frame of the Act starts with the calculation of bonus. Suppose if an establishment over here, if an establishment is consisting of different departments or undertaking or branches, whether they are situated in the same place or for example in different places, unless they have a separate balance sheet and profit and loss account prepared and maintained in respect of them, all such departments or undertakings or branches, these need to be treated as a part of the same establishment for the purpose of computation of the bonus. And learners, remind it that once they are treated as a part of the same establishment, they should be continued to be treated as such in the remaining phases of their life. The determination of gross profit is the first step towards computing the bonus. Learners, you need to remember that, because if the gross profit stands to the first step for computing the bonus. From the gross profit, certain prior changes are to be deducted to arrive at a available surplus. However, the bonus is to be paid out of the allocable surplus. In case of a company, the allocable surplus will be 67% of the available surplus, and in any other cases it is 60%. Let's talk about what is the eligibility for bonus. Every employee shall be entitled to be paid bonus by their employer in an accounting year that was defined in the definition that I spoken just before, provided that the concerned person has worked in the establishment for not less than 30 working days in that year. An employee will be disqualified from receiving the bonus if he is dismissed from the service, either on the ground of fraud or a riotous or a violent behavior while on the premises of the establishment, or the employee has indulged into some theft, misappropriation or sabotage of any property of the employer of the establishment. Then they'll stand dismissed from the services of earning the bonus. Let's talk about what are the amount of bonus that will be paid. The Act imposes that a statutory obligation on the employer to pay bonus at a minimum rate of 8.33% of the salary earned by an employee, or the minimum rupees of 100, whichever is higher in an accounting year. It shall be paid irrespective of profit or loss, whether there is an allocable surplus or not in an accounting year. But the maximum is fixed at 20%. So learners, please remember that the minimum rate of bonus is 8.33% of the salary, but the maximum is fixed at 20%. whether the salary or wage of an employee, if it exceeds 3,500 per month sum, the bonus payable to such employee shall be calculated as if his salary or wage was rupees 2,500. There is also a provision under the Act for proportional deduction or reduction in bonus where the employee has not worked for all the working days in an accounting year. The excess of allocable surplus, whatever we discussed earlier, if any, after distributing the maximum bonus as provided shall be set on. Please remember that it should be set on. The maximum bonus after distributing the maximum bonus that has been extended shall be set on, and that need to be taken into account for up to the 4th accounting year. Friends, please remember the excess of any allocable surplus, if any, after the employee distributes the maximum bonus as provided, need to be set on and take into account up to the 4th accounting year. In the case of any shortage or want of allocable surplus, the amount distributed as bonus shall be carried forward for set off and adjusted out of the allocable surplus. So, in this context, the Act has the schedules wherein in the 4th schedule there is a method that was illustrated which talks about the distribution, specifically the set off and set on the amount available for bonus out of the allocable surplus. Newly set up establishment, generally they get exemption from payment of bonus for a period of 6 years. Whoever are new, suppose nowadays you may be finding out a lot of entrepreneurial organizations, they get an exemption from payment of bonus for a period of 6 years following the accounting year in which the goods produced or manufactured are sold for the first time, and in the alternative up to the year when the new establishment shows profit, whichever is earlier. So under this Act, the adjustments can be made towards payment of customary, for example the puja bonus, I think Dasara bonus in India they used to extend, against bonus payable under the Act. If an employee over here is finding to be guilty of misconduct causing financial loss to the employer, then the employer can deduct the amount of loss from the amount of bonus that is payable to the employee for the year for which he has been found guilty of misconduct. Let's talk about the time limit for payment of bonus. The bonus is supposed to be paid within a period of 8 months. Within a period of 8 months, remember, from the close of an accounting year. If suppose there is a dispute that has happened, then it can be paid within 1 month from the date on which the award stands enforceable. The appropriate government, whether it is a central or a state government, can extend the same period up to a maximum of 2 years. Now let's move on to understanding the claim for bonus. If any bonus is due to an employee under a settlement, award or agreement, the employee himself or any other person who is authorized by him in writing in his behalf, or in the case of death of his employee, for example, then in that case his assignee or heirs may make an application to get the recovery from the appropriate government. Now over here the government need to get satisfied with the demand, may issue a certificate to the collector to recover the same as areas of land revenue. But mind it that such kind of application need to be made within a period of 1 year. However, the mode of recovery prescribed shall be available only if the bonus sought to be recovered is under a settlement or an award or an agreement. A dispute about bonus payable under the Act will have to be raised by the employee concerned in accordance with the provision of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 or any corresponding state law that is applicable to that. If accounts are audited by, say, for example, the duly qualified auditors of a company, or by the company computer, or by the comptroller and the Auditor General of India, then the statement and particulars contained, such as the balance sheets and profit and loss account, will be presumed to be accurate. It shall not be necessary for the corporation or the company to prove the accuracy of such statement. If the trade union, for example, requires any clarification, the court may direct the employer to furnish necessary clarification also. What is the mode of payment? Employees can enter into an agreement or a settlement with the employer for grant of bonus under a formula different from that under the Act. That is like bonus which is linked to the production or productivity of an organization. But this particular formula may be subject to the revision of the Act in respect of the payment of the minimum and maximum bonus. Now let's talk about it. What are the exemptions from where the Act do not apply? The Act do not apply to certain sets of establishment. Number one, as I told earlier, the newly set up of establishments or units or branches of existing establishment for 6 years from the date of starting production, unless such establishment are making good profits. Similarly, government institutions, Reserve Bank of India, Deposit Insurance Corporations, Industrial Development Bank of India, Agriculture Refinance Corporations, Unit Trust of India, Industrial Financial Corporations, State Financial Corporations, employees of insurance company or LIC, seaman, universities and other educational institutions, hospitals, chambers of commerce and social welfare institutions, any inland water transport, and employees employed through contractors or building operators, they are not being applied for they are being exempted from the payment of bonus. Now comes what are the obligation of employer. The obligation of employer is they need to work out and pay the annual bonus to the employees as defined in this Act that we have discussed. They need to maintain, every employer need to maintain following registers. Number one, like a register showing the computation of the allocable surplus. Register showing the set on and set off of the allocable surplus. And another register showing the details of the amount of bonus due to each employee deductions therefrom and the amount disbursed. And more importantly, they need to submit an annual return of bonus paid during the year. So this is all about the Payment of Bonus Act. Now let me move on to another act, another interesting act that's called as the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. The origin of the Equal Remuneration Act dates back to the formation of Article 39 of the Indian Constitution, wherein the Government of India on 1975 has promulgated a ordinance which is called as the Equal Remuneration Ordinance. The ordinance later in 1976, after a year, it got replaced as Equal Remuneration Act, and this has got the assent of President of India in the same year, that is in 1976. Therefore, it came into force in 1976 throughout India in the employment notified for the purpose. Let's see what is the object of the Act. The object of the Act is to provide for the payment of equal remuneration to men and women workers and for the prevention of discrimination. They should not be discriminated on ground of sex against women in the matter of employment. It also seeks to provide for increasing opportunity for women in the specified employment. Let's see the definitions. What is the remuneration? What is the definition of remuneration? It's very important for you all learners. This includes the basic wage or salary or any additional emoluments that is payable either in the form of cash or a crime to a person who is employed in an employment or work done in such employment if the terms of the contract of employment expressed or implied were fulfilled. Equal remuneration, the definition it says, equal remuneration means in the Act it says it is the duty of the employer to pay equal remuneration to both the sex, both the genders, men and women, for the same work or work for a similar nature. No discrimination shall be made while making recruitment for the same work or work of a similar nature between the male and female workers, except where the employment of women in such work is prohibited or restricted or under any law for the time being in force. Administration. For the purpose of providing increasing employment opportunity to women, the appropriate government has constituted one or more advisory committees. The appropriate government may appoint an authority. The authority should not be below the rank of a labor officer to hear and decide the claim and complaint. The authority appointed for this purpose has the power, all the powers of a civil court under the Code of Civil Procedures. The aggrieved employee or worker may come and appeal to the appellate authority in 30 days from the date of the order. It is also the duty of the employer to maintain also prescribed registers and different other documents in relation to the workers employed by them. The appropriate government over here can also appoint inspectors for the purpose of enforcing the provisions of that act. And this act also provides a set of penalties for violation of provisions. Let's talk about what are the exemptions. The requirement of equal treatment for men and women may not apply in certain special cases. For example, the terms and conditions of workmen's employment in respect of affected by compliance with the law, regulating the employment of women. Any special treatment is accorded to women in connection with the birth or a woman who is expecting to give birth to a child. So if the appropriate government gets satisfied that the difference in regard to the remuneration of men and women workers in any establishment or employment are based on a factor which is other than the sex or the gender, it may by virtue of a notification make a declaration that any act of the employer attributable to such a difference shall not be deemed to be a contravention of any provision of this act. So this is all about the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. Let me take you through the statutory social security benefits. I think we are talking about the wage and labor benefits and also the welfare and social security benefits. So in a nutshell, I wish that at least you should know what are the statutory social security benefits that a country like India extends. I think the social security legislations in India enactment has been mentioned in around some 5 different acts. For example, one is called as a Workmen Compensation Act. Workmen Compensation Act came into force in 1923. The objective of the act is to provide compensation for the workman in case of industrial accidents or occupational diseases, and which may be resulting in form of either a permanent disablement or a temporary disablement or a death. So in Workmen Compensation Act, the benefits that is extended to the people are like compensation given for death, or as I told, permanent total disablement, permanent partial disablement, temporary disablement, and if a workman gets contracted with different diseases during his work, then occupational diseases will also come in the core of extending them the benefits. Second one is called as an Employee State Insurance Act 1948. The objective of the Employee State Insurance Act is to extend the employees with the health care, with the cash benefit at the time of their sickness. For example, the maternity. For example, when the employee is getting some kind of injury. So the benefits over here in Employee State Insurance Act is the benefits are in the form of the sickness benefit, as I told, or say for example if the sickness prolongs for a period of time, then the extended sickness benefits, the maternity benefits, disablement benefits, dependent benefits. Suppose dependent members are there, some are medical benefits, or for example if an employee dies, then the funeral benefits or rehabilitation benefits. The third one is called as an Employee Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952. The objective of this act is to extend compulsory provident fund to the employees, pension fund, create a pension fund and extend them with pensions, deposit linked insurances. So this is the objective. The benefit is they can go for some refundable withdrawal. The employees can accumulate the provident fund, pension and deposit linked insurance so that they can encash it at the time of need. Similarly, there is another law which is very important in the context of women employees. Is called as the Maternity Benefit Act 1961. This is actually providing maternity protection to women employees before and after the childbirth. So the benefit over here is the payment for actual absence up to around 12 weeks on average daily wages that a women employee is accruing. Minimum wages are ₹10. So additional benefits also in this law, it says that additional benefits also been extended for miscarriage and illness arising out of pregnancy. So therefore you see friends, the social security legislation in industrial field has come out with very beautiful some 5 different provisions, 5 different acts, like as I told about the Workmen Compensation Act, Employee State Insurance Act 1948, Employee Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952, Maternity Benefit Act 1961, Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. All these various labor enactment that took place, it is basically to govern the wages. I think today what we have discussed, the wages is all about in terms of the wages or in the form of bonuses. For example, the Payment of Bonus and Equal Remuneration Act. So friends, this is all about the laws that was been covering the wages, welfare and benefits, and this is an offshoot of the International Labour Organization's conventions and recommendations, which have laid down the principles and methods of wage and incentive payment and fixations, and more importantly, as I can say once again, that the Constitution of India has enshrined the concept of social justice. So whatever the acts that we have studied over here, these are all the part of the social justice, because through this act it seeks to achieve among various other things to the labor legislation. So thank you friends.